Hello, world. Hello, Chip. I say Chip because it's Carver, Halifax, and Plimpton. And remember the TV show Chips? It was California Highway Patrol? Well, I got Carver, Halifax, and Plimpton. I think that's kind of cute, don't you? Hey, what's happening? What's going on? All that tragedy down in Virginia, in Charlottesville. I think that's awful. I don't understand what's happening to this world, this country that we live in. You know, not only that, but this guy in North Korea is pointing guns at us and going to fire on Guam. It's all scary stuff, you know, because we got Americans that live in Guam. We've got Americans that live in South Korea. We've got troops there. I think it's awful. You know, all that tragedy going on, all that warning, all that stuff going on. I'm so sick of it. And on top of all that, I understand somebody told me there's going to be a worldwide shortage of Viagra. I don't know what's going on. It's just more than I can bear. I just can't take it anymore. So you know what I'm going to do? I promise this in my last show. You know, I'm from another era. You probably can see that. I'm from another planet, I think. I'm from another world for sure, because I don't know what's going on anymore. So let me tell you about when I was a kid. Just a quick little synopsis of the dance places that used to be around here. Now, I'm talking about 40s music, you know, Benny Goodman and Tommy Dorsey and Glenn Gray and all those guys, which was so great. As a matter of fact, my first date with my girlfriend, who later became my wife, was at the Canoe Club over here in Bridgewater. And you know who we saw there at the Canoe Club? Gene Krupa and his orchestra. Now, some of you out there have never heard of Gene Krupa. And some of you that are close to my age know that he was the world's greatest drummer. I used to play the drums. I had my own orchestra when I was a kid. So I couldn't wait to see him. Now, I think I told you this before. I was 18. My girlfriend was 15. I had to get special permission from her parents to be able to take her out to a dance. Well, the floor was so crowded, in those days you couldn't dance. So what does this little girl, this little angel do? She backs up to me. She had a blue taffeta dress on with a crinoline petticoat. She looked like an angel. She backed up to me, took my hands and put them around her stomach. She was short, so I could smell the shampoo that she'd shampooed her hair. It was so, I said silently, God, if you're going to take me, do it now, because it ain't never going to get any better. All right, we had Mosley's on the Charles. That's still there, I think. Broad Cove down in Hingham or Cohasset, somewhere's there. But the ultimate, the Cadillac, the Rolls Royce of all dance places, in those days was called the Totem Pole. That was at Norumbega Park out near Alston. It's gone. It's not there anymore. We used to go there as often as we could if we could get the money. It cost $5 a couple to get in. $5. It was hard to come by in those days. And also had to have a car. So if we didn't have transportation, we didn't have the money, we didn't go to the Totem Pole. But I saw Blue Baron there. I saw Baron Hugo. I saw Sammy Kaye. I saw Ray McKinley. And the dance floor was so gorgeous with lights, colored lights spinning around. And you didn't have chairs. It went up like this, like an amphitheater. And there were couches. And each couch had a light that you could turn on or off. This place had no booze, no alcohol. As a matter of fact, there was a policeman at the door. And if he smelled alcohol in your breath, you didn't get in. There was a place called the teepee room where you could get soft drinks. And the teepee room was full of hassocks. So you're almost sitting on the floor, enjoying your drink and your girlfriend and the music. And I'm going to cry because those days were so great. I feel bad for anybody that never experienced it. All right, that's it. Oh, by the way, what does John the Baptist and Winnie the Pooh have in common? Think about it for a minute. Okay, I'll give you the answer. They got the same middle name. my cameraman is now going into a fit of laughter. All right, I've got a guest today. Don't go away. You take off your shoes, pour yourself your favorite beverage, because you're going to enjoy this lady. She's exciting, she's fascinating, as are all my guests. But this one's got something to tell you, and we are going to sit down and talk like we always do, like old friends. So don't go away. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I warned you. Before we get involved with my guest, who I'm very excited to have here today, somebody has asked me, as a matter of fact, just a little while ago, if this is scripted. And it is not. This is all unstructured, as I like to call it. I come in here not knowing what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, and just before the camera comes on, the good Lord fills me with all kinds of stuff. So whatever happens at the monologue is his fault, not mine. All right. Here, want you to meet my guest. I'm so delighted that she's here. And I'd like to start a little thing, I guess is as good a word as any, with Carver, Halifax, and Plimpton, to interview the head of each department. Because you'd be amazed at how many of you people out there really don't understand what the town clerk does, or what the registrar does, or what the assessor's office does. And so let's bring that to you. Let's introduce you to the people that head up the departments, and that's what we're going to do right now. I want to introduce to you Mrs. Lynn Doyle. Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come in here and talk with me and them.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I want to get to know you and have them know you just a little bit more intimately. Married?
I am not.
You are not?
I am not.
Children?
So you stand corrected with the Mrs.
I'm sorry. I do stand corrected.
Yeah.
I will say Ms.
Thank you.
Yes. Children?
I do. I have two. I have a boy and a girl.
How old?
One is soon to be 28, and the other is 25.
No kidding. You get kids that old?
I do. I know it's hard to believe.
It really is. It really is. You look very young.
Thank you.
What did you do for work? What were you doing when you were struggling?
Okay, I was a manager of an IT department.
A
So I
manager?
was working in computers.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. I started out in data entry back in the day when there was data entry and key punch machines and all sorts of lovely
You're
things.
kidding.
No.
wait a minute.
Now
Hold
I'm
it.
aging myself.
Hold it. When I first started out, this is longer ago than you, by the way, I was an IBM operator.
No way.
Have you ever heard of that?
Wow. Yes, I did.
IBM
Yes, I have.
operator. IBM stands for International Business Machines. And in the Air Force, they taught me how to operate international business machines. In those days, the tabulator, we used to call it,
Tabulator.
was bigger than this.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there was a board in the side
Yeah.
that you had to wire in order to get the thing to function. And we had three girls, two on key punch and one on a verifier.
Yep.
Is that familiar to you?
I don't know the verifier, but I do know the key punch.
Well, the key punch girl would take the card and it would go over to the verifier, and she would do it all over again to make sure that she punched it right.
Yeah.
And these little cards were all full of little holes,
Yep.
and that's how this thing functioned.
That's right.
And what used to fill a room at least 300 or 400 square feet, I now hold in my hand.
That's right.
It's incredible.
Yep. And that what you hold in your hand probably holds more data than
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
than the room size
Absolutely.
computer. Yeah.
I can send an internet. I can send an email to anybody.
It's amazing.
It's incredible.
It is amazing.
I had no idea we had that much in common.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked on an IBM system 32 and 34 actually.
Oh, for
Yeah.
God's sake. And the biggest competitor in those days was Remington Rand.
I don't recall that.
That's
but
before your time,
yeah,
I think, yeah.
yeah.
They had, Remington Rand and IBM were circling each other
Yeah.
to come in for the kill to see who was going to win out.
Yeah.
I think IBM finally won out. But Rem Rand gave them one heck of a good run out for their money, I'll tell you that. Okay, so after that, did you then become an employee of the town clerk's office?
Many years later.
Many years later.
Yep. I worked in IT for probably 20 plus years
Oh,
anyways.
okay.
Yep.
All right.
And it wasn't until after I had children, I was working in Boston part-time as a contractor in an IT department. And I was having some difficulties because my youngest was, she had some chronic health concerns. And so trying to hoof it from Boston to Carver in an emergency was difficult, to say the least.
Wow.
So I left my job in Boston and stayed home with my kids for a little while and then found the job in Carver.
Did you find the job in Carver was at the town clerk's office?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jean McGillicuddy was the town clerk?
Jean McGillicuddy was the town clerk, yep.
Yeah. And how did you like that? I mean, staying in Carver after working in a great metropolis like Boston.
It's an adjustment.
Yeah.
It's definitely an adjustment. The pay salary was not the same, of course,
Yeah.
and but you make the sacrifices you need to for the benefit of your family.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
my children needed me, and I felt that was the number one priority, and so
Are
I
you
took
a
less
Carver
of a
girl?
salary.
Were you born here?
I was not, no. I was actually born and raised in Wellesley, and I've moved about 20 times since then, so,
Really?
yeah. And Carver, however, is where I've lived the longest. I've lived here about 19 years now. I love Carver. I think of it as my home. I really think it's a beautiful town. It has a lot to offer, so.
I've only been here, I moved here in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Because my wife was ill, and she wanted to move down here because my son lives in South Carver, and the other one lived in Plymouth, 10 minutes apart, so she wanted to be closer to them. And at first I was very reluctant to move down here, but I've grown to love it and the people. And I've got to tell you something, I've been in town clerk's offices in many different towns, and I got to tell you that your office is the friendliest place in the world. When I come in there, I get greeted like they've been waiting for me. Where have you been? And it's a great feeling.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's. I can't say enough about that.
That's good.
Because other town clerks' offices, they're a little arrogant. What do you want? They didn't say that, but they implied it. And I found the other town offices, by the way, pretty doggone nice to visit too.
Yeah.
They all love my dog.
Yes.
So maybe that's what they really love.
Bring a dog or a child and we'll treat you well.
All right, we're talking with the town clerk of the town of Carver, Massachusetts, and her name is Ms. Lynn Doyle, and she is charming. She's got more to tell you. I got more to ask her. We'll be right back. Hi, we're back. I hope you enjoyed the song Stardust. My wife and I used to dance to that all the time. My favorite song. Wasn't her favorite song. I'm in the Mood for Love was her favorite song. And I won't go any further than that. We're back with Lynn Doyle again, the town clerk, the town of Carver. Lynn, how did you get to work? Why did you want to go to the town clerk's office to work?
Well, at the time that I interviewed with Jean and Rick LaFawn, the previous town administrator.
Yep.
They had talked about the different challenges of the office, and I found that really interesting. It was something new that I had never really dealt with before. I've been in corporate for decades and have dealt with a lot of different aspects of corporate with budgeting and hiring and so forth. municipality, the functions of municipalities are an entirely different challenge. I mean, you're limited more because of the funding for the for your resources and for your projects, and you're limited more with the hiring of employees in the department. So it's more of a challenge. It forces you to be creative with what you have to work with. And I always look at that as a challenge.
Oh, it certainly is. We've discussed the fact that you went to college, and now you are certified.
I am working towards my certification.
Okay.
I have gone to school for 3 summers for New England Municipal Clerks Institute. I did that actually prior to my first year of running for election. And I have passed those 3 years. And I also just finished an exam for Massachusetts Municipal Clerk. And you need an 80 or above to pass, and I got a 92. So I'm a little proud of that.
I don't blame you.
It's a pretty intense exam.
Yeah.
It's all based on Mass General laws.
How many questions were there?
There were about 200 questions.
Now, how
with
long does
all
a test like that take?
much longer than I wanted it to. It was grueling. It was very grueling.
Yeah.
And it's an open book exam, but even with that, you have to know where to find everything. And it's not just the Mass General laws, it's how they're implemented in your office, how the state has provided procedures for it. So you can look up Mass General laws, but then you don't still always know the answers to how they question you, and the multiple choice, it makes it a little more challenging. So it was grueling, it was difficult. A lot of town clerks have difficulty with it. Not everybody passes it the first time. It is a tough exam, and I worked very hard at it. And,
I can imagine,
I
What happens if you don't pass it?
You get to do it again.
Okay.
You can keep doing it until your heart's
okay.
content, until you
Okay.
finally pass it. But each time it's different questions,
Yeah.
and
Is-
you don't want to do it again.
Is there a cost factor? Do you have to pay for that?
I did. I paid. I think it was $100 for. I think it was $50 to file, and then $50 to do the exam, and so it was $100. And in the big picture, it's well worth it. But the certification, the Massachusetts certification that I'm working towards, it's based on points. So there's a municipal certification that you get, and then there is also a Massachusetts municipal certification. Two totally different things. So one is a CMC and one is a CMMC. And to achieve those certifications, it's involved. It's much more involved than just passing an exam or taking courses, or you have to accrue points over periods of time. And to get the Massachusetts certification, you have to be a town clerk for 3 years before you can even apply.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty thorough.
See, Lynn Doyle, I think that the certification that you've gone through and the schooling that you've had to go through to come up to that point is worth more than any degree I've ever seen, because it's specific.
Yeah.
It's aimed.
Yeah.
It's a goal.
Thank you.
How long have you been town clerk now?
This is my 4th year.
4th year.
Yeah.
I
just
can remember-
ran last year.
I can remember when town clerk was just the town clerk's office. Now it's town clerk registrar, right?
I don't know if it was just the town clerk's office. I think it's always been town clerk and registrar.
No.
The Board of Registrars have been a part of the office since, the town clerk is kind of considered an ex officio Board of Registrars. So they automatically become a Board of Registrar as a town clerk.
There was a board of registrars and a town clerk when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's changed about 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
There's still a Board of Registrars.
There is?
Yes, there's still a Board of Registrars, but the town clerk is part of that. They're
Okay.
considered part of that automatically. So, because it all has to do with elections. The Board of Registrars,
Yeah.
make sure all the nomination papers, petition papers,
Yeah.
voter registration sessions, all of that are happening
I hope you're taking notes.
legally. Yeah.
I got to ask you a question.
Mhm.
You know, I fill out nomination papers because I've run for office several times.
Sure.
And some of the names that I see on my nomination paper, I can't make them out.
Yes.
And the person's doing it is standing right there.
Yeah.
I know who it is, but I can't make it. How the devil do you people handle that?
It's not easy.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to research the address. We look up the address. So
You
first
do.
the address has to be correct. So when you do South Meadow Village, you can't put SMV.
Oh, yeah,
some people
okay.
might do. You
Yeah.
can't put a P.O. box because that's not a legal residence.
Okay.
So yeah, so there's certain things that we look for, and then once we get to the address, we look at all the different names registered to vote at that address. And if we can pick up a D or an L or an S or something in the name, and there's no juniors and seniors that didn't remember to put junior and senior, then we
you
can
have to have
use-
that too, huh?
You absolutely do.
Oh.
If there's more than one at that residence, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, it takes some time, and we do reject them. We do reject signatures at times.
Yes, I've had that happen to me in the town I formerly came from, Randolph. I'm going to name the town. In Randolph, I did a TV show there, and I asked the town clerk if we could follow him from the time he got up in the morning on election day till the time the election was all over.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
he didn't agree to it at first, and then he did.
Yeah.
And he said, I get up at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm here at the office at 4. I said, what?
Yes.
You're going to be kidding me.
No.
And he took us through, of course, they have several precincts in Randolph, 8 precincts. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I don't want to bore you. But I just want to let you know what the town clerk goes through that you don't know anything about. First of all, we had to meet with police. We had to be cleared by them. And then he took us to where the ballots are kept. And it was just, I met him at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I left him at 10 o'clock that night.
That's right.
That's a
Yeah.
long
It
day.
is a long day.
And,
very long day.
But the long day is not the big part of it, according to him now, and I'm sure it's the same with you. It's the frustration and the tenseness. It's a really tense time for you.
It's anything can go wrong.
Yeah.
You can have what they call the voting machines, but they're actually called tabulators. They can jam. They can have problems. You can have a child come along and try to feed it through with sticky hands or whatever the case may be. When that happens, panic ensues with some people because, that's your voting machine, you got lines,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So to stay calm during that time is difficult. But just for an example, with the presidential election, we had 2 different voting locations this time. We had Precinct 3 in the middle school gymnasium, and we had Precincts 1 and 2 in the high school gymnasium. That was a brand new thing that we were doing, first time. And the reason why we did it is, 1, because of the early voting, having to process all the ballots.
Oh, that's
from
right, the early
voting.
yeah.
And 2, because we were concerned about maybe the turnout being larger than it normally would
Yeah.
be because of the contentious race and so forth. So that was a lot of work, and preparing, we had to notify anybody who was being moved to that other gymnasium that that's where they were going to have to go vote. And then the signage and the flags and the balloons and pointing people, and that was a very nervous time for us. The early voting was a brand new process, and
Yeah, how did that work?
was very difficult.
Is that okay? Are you good with that?
Excuse me. No, and honestly, no. There's a lot of revisions that need to be made with that process. Sadly, I think people go to make change with good intentions, of course. Hey, let's get everybody out voting, and I agree with that 100%. I also think there's a responsibility people have that they need to own. And they need to make sure that they do the right thing and they get out and vote if they're interested in voting. Early voting costs the town a lot of money, costs the state a lot of money. It's costing us a lot of money. The process itself was, I mean, the state did an amazing job pulling it all together and coming up with the procedures and getting it disseminated to, you know, all the towns in Massachusetts, all the cities and towns in Massachusetts. You can only imagine what a monumental task that would be.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh,
And they had to do it quickly. But when people vote, you know, House and Senate, when Women League of Voters, Common Cause, people like that get out there and they push for these changes, they need to stop and consider the cost to the municipalities and the resources we have to deal with these changes. I have 2.5 people in my office, including myself. There was a time when there was 4 people in the office. You know, we've been added to with new responsibilities. I don't know how many times in the past, you know, 4 years that I've been in the office, and then prior to that I saw many changes added to the office. When that happens, it's forcing the town officials to look at what our programs are and what our other services are in the town. Because when we're forced to change things and we have these unfunded mandates, it costs the town money. And it's a difficult decision for the town officials to look at what we have to provide to the town for services. So with that being said, early voting was a difficult process. It was 11 days.
Is that a fixture?
It's a fixture. It's a fixture. It was 11 days of voting. 11 days of voting.
Wow.
And to be quite honest, it did not increase the voter turnout in
It
our
didn't.
town. It did not.
What was
Now,
the voter turnout last election, town election?
Town election.
I think it was a little over 8%.
It was maybe
8%?
7%,
Shame.
6%. It was
Shame.
awful. Yeah,
What's wrong with people that are not voting?
it was awful.
Yeah, before we go, I want to ask you, you have people help you with the election, town people, volunteers.
Actually, they get paid.
They get paid.
They get paid.
What do they get paid, if you don't mind?
Okay. Well, now it's $10, $11, and $12. So it's $12 for wardens, 12 something.
For the day?
No, per hour.
Per hour?
Per hour. Yeah. It's $11 per hour for the precinct clerk, and it's $10 per hour for.
Are you looking for volunteers?
I'm always looking for.
How does
election
one
workers.
volunteer? How does one volunteer?
Just come to my office
Just
or
come
give
to
me
the-
a call.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always looking for, because people get burnt out or they go away during the winter and maybe elections come up that.
We're going a little over time here, so
Okay.
but I want to keep going with you if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
I have some more questions to ask
Sure.
you. If you want to, do you have a website?
Well, it's the town website. So it's Carver.
Okay.
It's www.carverma.org.
And your phone number?
My phone number is 508-866-3403.
3403.
Yeah.
I think if anybody out there would like to get into something interesting once a year, volunteer for the election. They need you. They always need volunteers. I was going to ask you something else. So, all the towns and cities in the Commonwealth, do they all have the same, the town clerks, do they all have the same rules and regulations? Is it all standard?
It is pretty much standard. There are some very specific laws that apply to 90% of what we do in our office is state mandated. It's mandated by law.
Okay.
90%. So at least 90%.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, outside of procedural things and maybe paperwork that we do in our office, everything is mandated by law.
Okay.
So we do business certificates, dog licensing,
You do it
vital
all.
records, marriages, births, deaths,
Notary
all
public.
of that. Notary public.
Yeah.
Notary public is optional. Not everybody's a notary public, and I'm also a commissioner to qualified public officials.
Oh.
So, but you know, we look at it as a convenience for people in town. We don't charge for that, for those fees.
I know you don't. I know you.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't.
Yeah.
Is a, will you grace us? Will you honor us? Will you promise me that you'll run again?
Oh, yeah. I will. Thank you. Yeah.
When is your term up?
It's up in 2019, 2018, 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
God help I'm around to see that.
Yeah, it's, you know, people talk about it being appointed versus elected. I am a firm believer, as difficult as it is to run for election, I am a firm believer that the position should be elected. I don't think, I think you have a responsibility to the public when you're elected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, I have to face the people every day in this town. So, if I'm not giving 100% and doing a good job, then how do I face these people that I
You know,
see?
I'm on the housing authority. I don't get paid, but I ran for the office,
Yes.
and I owe it to the people who voted for me to be at every meeting and do as much as I can,
Yep.
regardless of the pay.
Right.
So I really feel that way. And I also feel very strongly about people voting.
Yes.
Please, the next election, let's see an increase from 8.5% to 9%. All right. Lynn, you know, I'm so fascinated with what you do and
Thank
how
you.
well you do it
Thank you.
that I could go on for another half hour. But
Can I interject for 1 second?
You certainly
I'd
can.
like to throw out a, you know, a recognition to my staff as well, because without my staff, you know, it takes a team to do the job. And
Absolutely.
they work really hard. Nancy Magnuson and Madeline Pompey, wonderful staff. I couldn't ask for better people
You've
in
got a
my
great
office.
staff. Like I said, when I come in there, it's like almost coming home.
Great.
I really
Well,
feel
that's
that
good
way.
to hear.
I really
we
feel
deal
that
with
way.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
We deal with a lot of people on a daily basis. So
Anything you'd like to say to the people before we wrap up?
come out and vote.
Come out and
Come
vote.
out and vote at every election. We
Absolutely.
need your votes. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that half as much as I enjoyed it. She was a great interview. She had a lot of information, very articulate, and was right there at her fingertips. I think she's a great town clerk. I thought Jean McGillicuddy was a great town clerk, to be honest with you, also.
Yeah.
But I think that these ladies who do the job so well deserve more credit than they get, because it's not easy for them. It's a lot easier for us guys than it is for them. But I watched them for years and years and years. They're very close to that glass ceiling. All right, that's it. Lynn Doyle, town clerk, fantastic. I'll be back with another guest. So don't you think of even changing from Channel 13. By the way, if it's out there, we'll be there. It says that right on the bottom of the screen. I read that. It's very nice. I like it. Okay, I'm going to leave now. Be back again. Until then, as Lawrence Welk used to say, keep a song in your heart.